Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. This is Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, April 7th, 2019, and we're live. Welcome to the African History Network show. We have a lot to talk about. Very, very busy 2 weeks because I was in Baltimore last weekend speaking at the 18th annual Baltimore Natural Hair Care Expo. So a lot has happened since we were last on the air live. If you follow me on Facebook or follow me on YouTube, you see I've been doing a number of YouTube videos. I did a couple of them, 2 or 3 of them from Baltimore. And Sunday, March 31st, I was preparing to come back to Detroit. I got the news that hip-hop artist and entrepreneur Nipsey Hussle was shot and killed, tragically shot and killed. So I've already done 2 Facebook Live broadcasts dealing with that. They're also on our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. So check those out on YouTube. And you know, there's been more information that has come. So I've done a number of Facebook Live broadcasts. One tonight on a different topic as well. So on tonight's show, we'll with a few different topics. We'll talk about Nipsey Hussle's life was changed when he went to Africa. He empowered his community through real estate, economic empowerment, and entrepreneurship and STEM. Okay, so some about that. Then also, more information has come out about the Robert Mueller report, and we know that Attorney General William Barr did a 4-page summary. So last time we were on was March 24th. And you know that was YouTube. It's our Facebook page, African History Network. It's on audio podcast as well. Go to our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Click on the link. Listen to podcasts on 8 different podcast platforms. And you want to advertise with the African History Network show? Email us at customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. So when we were on last time, I talked about how I broke down the 4-page summary that Attorney General William Barr did of the Robert Mueller report, and I dealt with the problems in that summary. Okay, and now it has come out that you have some members of the Robert Mueller team, some of the investigators on the Robert Mueller team, who are saying that they are unhappy with the way that Attorney General Robert Mueller is characterizing the Mueller report. Some on Mueller's team say report was more damaging than Attorney General Barr has revealed, and this is what a lot of people suspected from the beginning. Okay, so we'll talk some about that as well, because more information is coming out. We know that Representative Jerry Nadler, chair of the House Judiciary Committee, has subpoenaed the Mueller report. We found out that it is almost 400 pages without appendices, etc., without supporting information. So, I mean, this is going to be a real fight. Okay, but you know, this is an example of how elections have consequences. At least Democrats are in control of the House of Representatives. Okay, so shout out to everybody watching on Facebook. Share the broadcast on your Facebook page. Invite your friends to tune in also, and we'll talk some more about Nipsey Hussle tonight as well. Not to be confused with Nipsey Russell. All right. You know what I find interesting is that a lot of people putting out videos about Nipsey Hussle, and they just find out when he killed. They never knew before he was shot killed. I just find that interesting. Okay. All right. So we'll talk about continue to talk about Nipsey also, and the another good thing that is transpired from the tragedy is that the President Crips in L.A. Had a meeting uniting and focusing on putting down the guns. Okay. BET.com had an article about this. Nipsey Hussle's death inspires unity meeting between LA gang members. Blavity.com also had an article about this. This came out today, actually. Okay, so these are some good things that are coming out of this tragedy. All right, and then also this is causing people to focus more on ownership, entrepreneurship, building up the community, property, community, etc. Okay, there was a video of Nipsey Hussle going back to 2006 of him talking about the need to buy property in the community, not focus on the gold, on the platinum, not focus on the material thing, but focus on acquiring land. All right, and this is something that the brother's doing as well. Okay, so we'll deal with those topics, and out there, everybody watching us on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network. Do you remember back in, I think it was 2015, you remember the huge gang fight that took place in World, Texas? It had 9 people killed. It was hundreds of grown people, grown men and women out there fighting, shooting, killing, things like this, right? You remember that? And then you saw coverage of it on MSNBC and CNN, and it died down, and you haven't heard anything about that. Well, we have an update on this case here, and you're not going to believe this. We have an update on what's happening with the biker gang shootout, the biker club shootout. 9 people were killed. This was back in 2015. Okay, so we'll talk some about that as well. Now, many people listen to Reverend Al Sharpton's show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Keeping it real, Reverend Al Sharpton. And if you listen to the show, and he's nationally syndicated, so you hear him around the country. If you listen to the show, you know that they had their annual meeting that took place this past weekend. Okay, this past weekend. And many of the Democratic candidates were there at the annual meeting and their policy and strategy conference. And they took questions from the audience. And one of the questions that came up was about reparations and supporting H.R. 40. Okay? Now, we know that H.R. 40 was originally introduced in 1989 by Representative John Conyers from Detroit. And also Representative Sheila Jackson Lee has taken up the cause of H.R. 40, and H.R. 40 has been refashioned. And now that the Congressional Black Caucus is more powerful than ever, they have 55 members in the CBC, we see a renewed push for reparations and for H.R. 40. Okay, so we're going to talk some about how the momentum that H.R. 40 is gaining in Congress, as well as among Democratic presidential hopefuls. Now, we haven't heard anything from Donald Trump about reparations. Okay, and what we have to understand is that we push these issues, we have to push it to Democrats and Republicans, not just Democrats. Push it to Democrats and Republicans. Now, we haven't heard anything from Trump about reparations, and you probably not, except a no. Okay, and this is an example once again of how elections have consequences. This is an example once again why Trump needs to be voted out of office. Okay, and also this is an example how African Americans have to mobilize and vote, because you see what you're getting from Trump. He's reversing many of the policies, over 100 policies that President Obama had in place. Things are getting worse under Trump. So you see what you're getting from him. Okay, so and this is why there was rampant voter suppression in the 2016 election. You've heard me, if you watch this show, you heard me talk about this while the 2016 election was going on. I was reporting on the rampant voter suppression that was taking place. And I said we're going to need a record number of African Americans to come out and vote to stop Trump. People didn't want to listen. Look at what you have now. Also, this month, April 2019, is our 3rd year anniversary of broadcasting the African History Network show on 910 AM Superstation WFDF. So we've been doing this show 3 years here, 9 years in total, 3 years on this radio station. Okay, so if you like the information we share with you, you can donate to the African History Network. PayPal.me/the AHN show. PayPal.me/the AHN show. That helps us to keep doing the research, finance the show, stay on the air, pay the bills, etc. PayPal.me/the AHN show. Or you can go to AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Click on the yellow donate button. Okay. Now, somebody on Facebook, Robert, said H.R. 40 is not enough. Nobody said it was enough. H.R. 40 is a huge start. You got people that don't even want to acknowledge the transatlantic slave trade existed. You have people who don't want to acknowledge the connection between conditions today and 246 years of slavery, which maldistributed wealth, power, and resources into the hands of the dominant white society. So nobody said HR 40 is enough, okay? But it's a huge start. All right, now if you look at what happened, I posted an article earlier today dealing with Florida, and April 26th in Florida is going to be was it Confederate Memorial Day, crazy like in Florida. Okay, we know Florida is a Republican state, a long history of racism and white supremacy in Florida. But as I explained to people, and I talked about this in one of my videos, I've done so many this past week, I can't remember which one I talked about in. I think it was the one dealing with United Bank has a new Queen debit Visa card in honor of black queens and the new generation of black queens. I just uploaded that on YouTube this afternoon. So go to our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. You'll see it there. Let's see. Okay. And so somebody on Facebook said, I voted for Obama, but do you think a lot for us? Do you think he did a lot for us? Okay, so people, for the like 100th time, go to whitehouse.gov and search for progress of the African American community under the Obama administration. You'll be surprised at the policies from President Obama that positively impacted the African American community. That's still at whitehouse.gov. Trump has not taken it down. It was up there during his second term. People, you know, unfortunately, we don't do research. And I found out about it from Reverend Al Sharpton's radio show. Because Andre Michael Eggleston, who used to guest host the show, and Andre Michael Eggleston just passed away a few months ago, he was the first one I heard that mentioned this document that listed all these policies from the Obama administration that positively impacted African Americans. So I went to whitehouse.gov, downloaded it, and I use it in a lot of my lectures. Okay? For instance, Affordable Health Care. Most people don't know that the Affordable Health Care Act gave health care to 3 million non-elderly Americans who did not have care. Which the 3 million non-elderly African Americans who did not already have health care got health care because of the Affordable Health Care Act. And what this does is helps to positively impact people financially, because the number one reason why people go bankrupt is because of medical bills. So if you can get affordable health care, you can get preventive maintenance. And then also, under President Obama, we saw the life expectancy for African Americans reach its highest point in history as well. Go read that document, Progress of the African American Community under the Obama administration, at whitehouse.gov. What's whitehouse.gov? Official website of the White House. All types of transcripts just from the president. All types of press releases are there, right at whitehouse.gov. Take advantage of it. Your taxpayer dollars pay for it. So there was an article from Newsweek.com, and this article deals with how in Florida you're going to have this Confederate Memorial Day on April 26th. And see, what people have to understand, and what I caution people about, is that if you want to get something tangible from the whole reparations fight, we have to approach this strategically, not emotionally. We have to understand how to make a legal argument for reparations, not an emotional argument for reparations. And making a legal argument goes beyond YouTube videos and documentaries. It actually deals with digging into the history, understanding the law, and making a legal argument. But at the same time, you're going to have a massive history lesson for America, because most Americans are ignorant of history. And this is a huge, huge problem. Okay? So, the article, there was an article from thehill.com. There's an article from thehill.com dealing with the fight for reparations and how gaining steam in Congress. And what I did was I saw it on the Hill.com's Facebook page. So what I did was because of white public, and it's a good article, I did some comments that were there. Most of the comments were from white people. And these are some of the most in-ass comments you ever want to see. You can have no understanding of history. One of these that you can tell they don't understand history is that a lot of them think the Confederate flag that was on the Dukes of Hazzard car the General Lee, they think that's the Confederate flag. That's the Confederate battle flag in Northern Virginia under Robert Lee's army. There were 3 flags that flew over the Confederate States of America from 1861 to 1865. That flag was not one of them. So when you understand the fight for reparations has to pass through Congress based upon Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution that most people haven't read, because most people haven't read the Constitution or don't understand it. Donald Trump is one of them. It's not going to come from an executive order from the president, because that's a violation of Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution that gives the power of the purse strings to Congress. When you understand it has to get 218 votes in the House of Representatives and 60 votes most likely in the U.S. Senate, then you understand the uphill battle that we have to engage in. And America needs a massive history lesson. You listen to 910 AM Superstation Future Radio. This is Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation of Future Radio. Hey, I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, April 7th, 2019, and we are live. Hope everybody's doing well. We're back from the commercial break. All right, so we have a jam-packed show tonight. So on the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Now, we deal with a number of different topics here on the show. We deal with current events and history and politics, education, economic empowerment, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, 22828 to sign up for our email newsletter. Also go to our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right, so we're celebrating the 3rd year anniversary of us broadcasting the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation. We've been in this time slot for 3 years. And you can donate to the African History Network, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show, okay? All right, so before we jump in and deal with and talk about Nipsey Hussle and talk some about his legacy, give you a little background information on him, and talk about how Nipsey Hussle going to Eritrea, which is the homeland of his father, because he was half Eritrean and half African American, how that changed his life when he went to Eritrea for 3 months back in 2004. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's get some of these calls quickly here. Let's go to Chris, line 1. Hey, Chris, welcome to the African History Network show. Tell us where you're calling from.
Is that Chris? Is that Spree?
Okay, what's your name?
Esprit.
Esprit. Okay, it says Chris here. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Tell us where you're calling from.
Detroit.
From Detroit. Okay, go ahead with your question or comment.
Okay. In your introduction to your program, you talked about reparations, and and how Congress is trying to push that as a public policy. Now, my question is, if it were to happen, period, like you could snap your fingers and it were to happen, how would the equal distribution of resources transpire? And I would like to hear your opinion on that.
Okay, thanks for your call. So when we look at H.R. 40, it's not a bill to distribute reparations, it's a bill to study reparations. The distribution is one thing that needs to be studied, and it has to be crafted as a law so the bill can actually pass the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. Now, one of the best ways, now I'm totally against the majority of reparations being in the form of a check. The reason why is because we all got $1 million a day. White people have it all back this time next week, and you would not have accomplished anything except stimulated their economy. Okay. Now, if you study the Black Freedmen Indian treaties of 1866, which was probably our chance to get any type of reparations, the reason why is because those treaties are still on the books for the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, Cherokee, and Seminole Indians. And some of our ancestors were in those treaties after the Civil War ends, and they got land, they got they became members of the various Native American nations. They got land, and this later translated into free taxes, free college tuition, etc. Okay, you have land giveaways like the Dawes Allotment Act of 1887. When you study Sarah Rector, who lived in Oklahoma, and her family was of former slave Creek ancestry. Okay, former slave Creek ancestry, because the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, Cherokee, and Seminole Indians all owned African slaves. When we look at the compensation that these Indian treaties give these what are called the 5 civilized tribes of Native Americans today, it translates into free college tuition, free taxes, no taxes, tax exempt, free radio station licenses, TV station licenses, etc. They were compensated with some land also. Now, we do understand that, you know, Native Americans have various problems, high alcoholism, etc. But when you look at something like that, and then also the other thing was those former slaves that those 5 civilized tribes of Native Americans owned, those former slaves who became known as black freedmen, they were given full citizenship in those tribes also. So that was their nationality as well. That is something more tangible, okay? And if you study Tulsa, Oklahoma, see, all this ties into the history of Tulsa, Oklahoma, because where Black Wall Street is, or was, where Black Wall Street was, Tulsa, Oklahoma was founded by Creek Indians around 1836. Because the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, Cherokee, and Seminole Indians all got pushed off of their land in 1830 because of the Indian Removal Act of 1830, which kicked them off their land in southeastern United States, Georgia, Alabama, areas like this. And they're all pushed, they all go out over 1,000 miles, which was known as the Trail of Tears. When they go out west, they all go into Oklahoma. They take the African slaves, their black slaves with them. Now, some people make the debate, oh, well, they were served, etc. They weren't. What we do know is when the Civil War came, 1860 to 1865, all 5 civilized tribes of Native Americans fought on behalf of the South to maintain slavery, because they all slaves. They wanted it up. Okay, M. said, "Give it up, turn it loose." They didn't want to give it up and turn it loose. Okay, so these are laws that are still in the book today. I believe in going after low-hanging fruit first, and if you deal with enforcing the Black Freedmen Indian treaties for those that qualify for it, and then later expanding it, it allows you to navigate around dumbass people that understand history. Then you got to sit up and argue with them. No, we're talking about enforcing the laws that are already in the books. These laws are still on the books. We don't understand history. And if you don't understand history, don't understand law, you don't understand the laws that need to still be enforced. So many of our ancestors got illegally pushed out of the treaties in 1941 when the U.S. government conspired with the 5 civilized tribes of Native Americans to redefine what a Native American was. So then they stated that you had to have 1/4 or 1 quantum Native American blood, but those treaties did not state that. Okay? But see, if you don't understand history and law, then you don't understand that that's something that needs to be fought for and enforced. Okay? So I believe in going after low-hanging fruit. All right, speaking of reparations, then we'll go to Tony in just a second, line 2. The 30th Annual National N'COBRA Convention 2019 is taking place. Now, N'COBRA, now you got a lot of people that just jumped into the fight for reparations. N'COBRA has been involved in fighting for reparations for decades. Okay? So, you know, welcome to the resistance for people that just started fighting for reparations like this year, last year. But when you jump into a movement, you got to understand the history of the movement. You got to study people like Reparations Ray Jenkins and Queen Mother Moore, John Conyers, okay, Dr. Ron Daniels, okay. These are people been involved. Dr. Ron Daniels has been involved in the fight for 50 years. Okay, so you can't just jump in a movement thinking you invented the movement. All right, you can't just jump in the movement thinking you invented the movement. You have to go study the people who came before you. So, 400 years of terror, a debt still owed. This is taking us. So this is the 30th Annual National N'COBRA Convention 2019. This is taking place at Timbuktu Academy of Science and Technology, located at 10800 East Canfield Street in Detroit, 10800 East Canfield Street in Detroit, Michigan, 48214 is the zip code if you need that. It's taking place Thursday, June 20th through Sunday, June 23rd, 2019. Okay. For more information, call the local contact is 313-399-8797. 313-399-8797. National contact 202-643-1460. 202-643-1460. Yours truly would definitely be there. Visit their website, ncobraonline.org. NCOBRA online.org. ncobraonline.org for more information. All right. Okay, let's go back to the phone lines. Let's go to Tony, line 2. Welcome to the African History Network show. Tony, thanks for holding. Tell us where you're calling from.
Detroit, West Side. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, go ahead.
I appreciate you breaking it down as far as the Native American treaties. That's deep, and that's something that we need to study and focus and research.
And Dr. Claude Anderson is one who's been fighting to enforce those treaties for years also. He sued the U.S. government. But it has to be a massive movement. It can't just be him and a few people. It has to be a massive movement to push this. Go ahead.
Exactly. I want to know your thoughts on, okay, first and foremost, of course, what you just stated as far as approaching reparations. But what do you think about those corporations who directly benefited, who owned slave ships, who insured slaves, being a part of the reparations, of course, the government.
Right.
But all of those people that it can be documented, proven, you have receipts.
Right.
On the slave owners, those plantations. I mean, do you think that has credibility on a legal status level?
I think it has some credibility, but you're going to. Well, what we have seen recently is we've seen universities who've come out and acknowledged the role that their university played in slavery, whether it's Georgetown, Harvard, etc. And they've pushed to make some type of amends to those direct descendants of, like, Georgetown sold, I forgot how many hundreds of enslaved Africans, okay, at one point. So they work to give some type of compensation to those descendants of the slaves that they own. Not everybody that was a slave at one point. Okay, not the descendants of anybody who was a slave, but specifically those enslaved Africans that they owned. Okay, their descendants. Okay. All right. So there were a number of corporations. So that can be part of it. That's more of an uphill battle dealing with the corporations. Now, so there's some corporations that don't exist. There's some that still exist. One of them is the New York Life Insurance Company. The New York Life Insurance Company started out as the Nautilus Mutual Life Insurance Company in the spring of 1845 in Manhattan. And in their first 3 years, part of the policies they sold were on enslaved Africans on the plantation. Now, they have been upfront with this history, okay? Whereas other insurance companies have not been so upfront with the history. So you can do that. It's more of an uphill battle because you are, if you have corporations that want to be upfront and acknowledge it and make amends, that's something you can do. If you have those that want to play dumb, right? It's more of an uphill battle. The reason why is because it's a harder case to make. The reason why is because we don't have any living survivors of slavery. So it's your generations removed from that. You don't have anybody to tell those firsthand accounts. Okay, I don't think it's impossible, but at the same time, I like going after low-hanging fruit first. Okay, so if you have corporations, and I'll come back to you in just a second. If you have the corporations that are upfront about it and acknowledge the role that they played, you want to probably deal with those first. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, I heard you trying to say something else. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, what about the government? What approach would you take
toward
the laws that were in effect?
That's extremely important. That's extremely important. This is the most important thing here. Okay. The most important thing is dealing with March 2nd, 1807, when the U.S. outlawed the international slave trade. Go to history.com, official website of the History Channel, and read their article it had on Congress abolishing the international slave trade. They passed that law March 2nd, 1807. It went into effect January 1st, 1808. Britain did the same thing. Now, what this did was this made it illegal to bring Africans into this country and enslave them. This made it illegal. So prior to that, and this is why I try to explain to people why you understand law. Some people like this, okay? But prior to 1808, all the Africans that were brought into this land and made slaves, even though it was morally wrong, it was legal. It was legal. So hold on. Just we got to understand arguments. See, this is the difference between doing a YouTube video about reparations and actually getting the law passed. The law is based upon law. It ain't based upon emotion. Prior to 1808, go read the laws. It was all legal. So you're gonna have an uphill battle trying to get compensation for something that was legal. It was wrong. It was morally wrong, but it was legal. We're not going to the court of morality. We're dealing with law, and this is what a lot of people don't want to come to the realization of. And I'm not one to play with our people's emotions. I'm gonna tell you straight up. I'm gonna tell you straight up what it is. I don't play those games. I'm not playing with people's emotions. You got some people that mean well, but talking about they owe us $14 trillion. Let me ask you a simple question, Tony. You ever studied the history of slavery in this country?
Of course.
Where did you read that slaves were supposed to be paid? I'll wait.
I don't know.
So what I'm trying to exactly. Now, it's hard for many people to come to that realization. But this is why we have to understand the difference between YouTube video debates on reparations and actually making a legal argument to actually get a bill passed in the House of Representatives. It takes 218 votes to get a bill passed in the House of Representatives. I ain't talking about debating on YouTube. I'm talking about actually getting there are 45 members of the House of Representatives. It takes 218 votes to get anything passed. There are 100 members of the U.S. Senate. When it comes to things dealing with the budget and paying something out, you're going to most likely need 60 votes instead of 51. Now, that's real talk. A lot of people don't want to have that conversation. Go ahead.
Okay, I got a question for you. What do you think black people, American people in general would think about the dimension of foreign aid that the U.S. gives multiple countries and what it's actually used for, and it's our taxpayer dollars? What do you think the American people, black people, would think about that? And you can't get clean water in Flint or any type of redress for horrendous conditions that we've been. See, the difference is that you dealing with nations. Nations do business with nations. This is something that Professor Kaba Khamenei talked about in the documentary Black Friday. Nations do business with nations. Nations operate based upon treaties. When you've been stripped of a nationality, now many of us claim the nationality of American, but hell, it's America that helped put us in this predicament. So you're at a disadvantage when you deal with Flint, Michigan. Now, what I find very interesting, right, is Donald Trump has barely said anything. I don't think he said anything since he's been in office about Flint, Michigan. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt to say barely, right? That's because the governor of Flint, Michigan was a Republican. Okay, now if that governor had been a Democrat, he'd be talking about Flint, Michigan like he talks about Chicago. Okay, so
what you're dealing with is understanding how nations do business with nations. And well, a lot of African Americans disagree with, you know, a lot of the aid that goes to countries. But at the same time, you understand.
$3 billion to Israel.
Yeah. Well, you know why? Because Jews vote and they leverage their dollars to push their agenda. If you go research, you know who Sheldon Adelson is?
No.
Sheldon Adelson is one of the biggest donors to Donald Trump. Sheldon Adelson helped to heavily finance Donald Trump's presidential campaign. Sheldon Adelson, so Donald Trump he just spoke to a group of dudes. Sheldon Adelson sitting up there with a red yarmulke on that says Trump. So they number one, they vote. Number two, they leverage their economics in maybe not the same order, but they leverage their economics to push their agenda. Sheldon Adelson leveraged his economics. Okay, he's a billionaire. He leveraged his economics to push his political agenda. I ain't saying it's right. I'm saying that's what happened. Okay. Now at the same time, African Americans had to vote to stop Trump. We ain't realizing in 2016. Most of us don't realize it now. We invented math, but we don't understand math. We invent math, but we don't understand math. We don't understand. Wait a second. There was 16.4 million African Americans registered to vote in 2016. 59.6% voted. That was a 7 percentage point drop from 2012, when 66.6% of African Americans who were registered to vote. Donald Trump in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania by 78,000 votes. If African Americans in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania voted at the same level in 2016 that they voted in 2012, Trump would not be president right now. We had to vote to stop Trump. People talking about the Electoral College but can't explain to you how the Electoral College works. They weren't dealing with the rampant voter suppression that was taking place in 2016 to suppress the vote and keep battleground states. This is what I was reporting on in 2016 on my national radio show, the Michael Imhotep show, and on this station as well. Go ahead, and then I get to Aiden.
I was going to say, vote swapping just for the hell of it. It was all documentary about that.
Swapping. What do you mean by vote? What do you mean by vote swapping?
Okay, so I'm here if Hillary or
you got the clip I sent you?
My candidate.
Check your email.
So I will swap you to vote.
Yeah, I got it.
If you don't vote for this one, and I'll tell you I'll vote for this one.
I understand. Give me an example. What do you mean? I'm not familiar with vote swapping.
Okay, so it's documentary. It was a PM. It was good.
What's the documentary? Who and it was Greg Palace? Was it investigative report Greg Palace, the documentary?
See, I don't remember. I can't.
Okay, because he put out a documentary called The Best. He put out a documentary called, I think it's The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. Investigative reporter Greg Palace, and Joanne Reed has interviewed him before a few times on AM Joy. But go ahead.
PBS. So, you know what? I'll look it up because I don't really like putting stuff out there.
Right.
It just popped up in my head. We were talking about manipulation and votes.
All right. Well, Google it and call me back. Google it and call me back. All right. All right. Thanks, Tony.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
Okay. Let's go to Aiden, line 1. Aiden, welcome to the African History Network show. Tell us where you're calling from. Thanks for holding. Okay, go ahead, man. Thanks for holding.
I like to make a prediction based on history itself.
Okay.
Because of the type of cognitive mindset that we're dealing with, they are adversaries, our enemies. If they decide, not what we want, we claim we should, if they decide to give us anything or pay us anything, they will definitely make sure that it is embedded of theirs. By them knowing the homework we have. And then they will sort of people have that discussion will never ever be held in. Now, if anything, we can do today every time. It all depends on who will do the speaking. But this is what I predict.
Okay.
Whatever they give us is going to be what they decide, not what we figured out.
Okay. All right. Thanks for calling.
All right.
Okay. That's why we have to be smarter than that. Not forward, not forward. Okay. Let's see here. All right. So let's talk about Nipsey Hussle for a few minutes, and then we'll continue this on the other side of the break as well, and then we'll go back to the phone lines. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. Okay. So a lot of people called in. The topic of reparations was going to be one of the topics in the second hour, but people called in. They want to talk about that in the first hour. Okay, so we'll move some things around. All right. So Nipsey Hussle was shot and killed Sunday, March 31st, and I was on my way back from Baltimore, preparing to come back from Baltimore, and I got the news. I saw an article from thegrio.com and got the news. Now, NBCnews.com, there were a number, I've read probably 50 articles dealing with Nipsey. We posted a lot of them on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network. NBCnews.com has a really good article. Nipsey Hussle's commitment was to his LA neighborhood where he had big plans. Nipsey Hussle's commitment was to his LA neighborhood where he had big plans, okay? And one of the things they talk about here, and I did 2 videos dealing with this. Go to our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP on YouTube, and you can watch the videos I did. But back in 2006, Nipsey Hussle was at Russell Simmons' Get Your Money Right Summit. And we know Russell Simmons, brother to Rev Run of DMC. And Nipsey Hussle spoke plainly about leaving behind the material things synonymous with hip-hop lifestyle, the diamonds, the flashy cars, to secure the financial future of his family and people in his community as well. And we know that in 2004, he went to Eritrea, the homeland of his father. Eritrea is right next to Sudan and Ethiopia. Eritrea used to be part of Ethiopia as well. Now, on MSNBC, they did a segment dealing with Nipsey Hussle on Velshi and Rule. Let's go to this clip. Turn up in here so they can hear on Facebook.
Welcome back to Velshi and Rule. Today, rapper Nipsey Hussle was supposed to meet with LA police leaders to discuss how to curb the city's paralyzing gang violence problem. Instead, fans are now mourning the rapper, the icon, who was killed in a shooting just outside his clothing store yesterday.
Hussle's album, Victory Lap, was nominated for a Grammy this year, but his impact in the Los Angeles community went far beyond his music. He invested in educational programs, developed his own store, and even helped rebuild his neighborhood's deteriorating infrastructure. As the LA Times details, he was known to buy shoes for students. He repaved basketball courts. He freshened up playgrounds. He provided jobs and shelter for the homeless, and he paid for funerals for those who struggled to bury their loved ones.
A true leader. MSNBC's Tremaine Lee joins us now. Tremaine, this is a terribly tragic story. Can you walk us through not just his life's work in terms of art, but what he meant to the community? Because there are a lot of very successful artists, athletes out there who have foundations, who give, but they give from a high perch, and he never left his neighborhood.
They call him Neighborhood Nip, right? Because he stayed in his community. Once he got money, once he got fame, he never fled. And his legacy, which, and this is the part that I think is very, very interesting, it's a very specific kind of black power and black empowerment, right? He talked early on, years ago, as a younger man, about the institutions around the community and how they take money but never put anything back in. We all know the stats. When you put $1 in the black community, it circulates for a few hours. It never stays because the ownership